here we go. So, previously. Location unknown, day unknown, year unknown. The only memory that you have is of a dark, spider-webbed cave. Your friends beside you, and someone named the Spider speaking to you, offering you a simple choice. Die now, or meet with the Master who is behind the rose and the spider. She then approached each of you, her beautiful face an inscrutable mystery, and laid a hand lovingly against yours. Something pulled at you, at the very things that make you, you, and drew you away into a far-away place. Some of you toyed with resisting, others simply gave up. But one by one, the Ashen Hearts saw their vision turn to pure white, and each of you was whisked away. As the white from your vision begins to fade away, it turns to endless, dark nothingness, and you almost feel the welcome comfort of deep sleep envelop you. For just a moment, you are at peace, before you feel a tug behind your navel. And that tug quickly turns to gravity, as you become aware that you are falling. And though the darkness around you does not change, you spot something beneath you, something else. You look down, and you see a sheet of thin, faint, glimmering lights, little specks painted against the darkness, in the direction that seems to be downwards. They remind you of stars, but you've never seen stars approaching you at a rapid pace, and you realize that you're falling into that collection of strange lights. It only takes a few moments before you are among them, and you feel a sharp cut somewhere on your body, your scales being torn apart by something very strong. And then you feel another. You look up, and you see dark droplets rippling away from the edge of one of these lights, which are not lights at all, but rather seem like broken pieces of glass, or in fact mirrors, reflecting in them something that is not to be seen anywhere else. As you become aware of them, you begin to slow down, drifting aimlessly rather than falling, among this vast collection of thousands upon thousands of little windows, mirrors, allowing you to peek into different moments in different times in different lives. Some are only as large as your palm, others as big as doorways. Each emits its own light, each a little window into unfamiliar worlds, until you look into one, and the world that you see is not unfamiliar at all. Your first glimpse, Ternock, into the shards of something familiar is a vision of your parents, alone on a road, carrying what seems to be you as a baby. You see them tense and paranoid, avoiding others, not using their station, and barely getting out of several scrapes, while the world seems to be crumbling around them. This must have been the god's fall. Then, you feel yourself move in this empty space, and you see other visions of other times in the past through the shards around you. There are the first glimpses of your family recovering from their ordeals, your mother and father finding acceptance in this new community, even if only superficially. You see yourself and your younger brother getting bullied for the color of your scales, and what followed was probably one of the first fights that you were ever in. The next vision that you see is yourself arguing with your father, and drifting ever further away from each other, as you were making the wrong friends while you were young. You see the heartbreak in your parents' eyes during your trial, and your subsequent lockup for the various crimes you had already committed. You see a long darkness in a small room, and then the one day where everything changed, where you were released under one condition and one condition only: your sworn fealty to the Order of the Locked Heart. You see yourself struggling with the various bits of chaos within yourself. Even see yourself coming close to your parents' house again, but never going back. Years of training pass by you in the blink of an eye. And finally, you see yourself on a ship to Postizia, in strange company, looking back towards a homeland that now, upon reflection, perhaps seemed barely like home. Through all of this, you only now realize that you've stopped falling entirely, and that there is in fact solid ground beneath your feet. There is springy grass that seems to grow at an incredible speed around you, spreading out in all directions. And the glass shards that you were looking through begin to connect to each other, forming a dome around you. And the different images begin to blend together, and the vision of the world as you know it grows into reality. As the last specks of darkness are blotted out by the shards filling their place, you feel the inexorable pull of gravity further ground you. You find yourself standing under a large keep, an old, slightly crumbling keep, in which you've been training and living for several years. You're standing in the fields below that keep. You see, just a short distance away, a group of other older men and women training new recruits, of which there are too few. A quiet voice comes from your left, and it says, "Hello, Ternock. I am the master that Kayata spoke of, that is, the spider. But to you, I will be Bekor, that is Bekor. You see standing there beside you a very distinct individual, a person, their hair verging on grey, shoulder length, but still brown, light brown, and their features impossible to place, but chiseled and sharp. They seem old and wise, the type that you might find in a rural community, in a village, as a wise person, you're not sure which gender. They're entirely wrapped in dark brown robes, which accentuate a bony and almost malnourished figure. They look at you sideways, curious, but they don't say anything else, giving you a moment perhaps to adjust to this situation.
I look around. I try to make sense of what's going on, what's happening,
Mm-hmm.
and I turn to him or it, and I try to first recognize, try to make something from within the robes. Is
Okay.
that possible at all?
What is it that you're trying to spot? Like weapons or?
Mm, Do I see a face or I don't?
Oh, definitely a face. It's just
Okay.
it
Uh-huh.
seems it is definitely the face of something that is not of your world. And so
Uh-huh.
looking at it, it gives off an impression, but every time you try to commit what you're seeing to memory, it doesn't take. It's like seeing something out of the corner of your eye, even though you're looking straight at it. But the impression that you get is of this old, wise, venerable
Mhm.
person, with the only notable feature that you can remember is that their angles in their face seem very sharp, very chiseled sort of face, maybe elven almost, at least in memory, and the hair, which goes to about shoulder length, and which is a very very light brown, almost gray.
I, you know, kind of not stare down, but I give a good look through the entire thing, try to make sense of it, kind of. Not really, not that really that really matters that much, but
Mm-hmm.
I I give myself a moment and I just ask, why did you bring me here? And I don't mean this, but here, this place.
They look around, look up at the keep. They look slightly impressed. Actually, this is of your choosing, subconsciously. But it is a place where you have a connection. Whether good or bad, I do not know. But I find that those I speak to me in the places where they feel as they feel, either strong or vulnerable or scared.
And while he's saying that, I'm trying to see if the people who are training and the people who are existing in this environment are actually aware of my presence in any way.
Okay.
Or
Make an insight check. And let me know what it is, because I don't have Roll20 open.
nine.
It's difficult to say, but it's primarily due to the distance. So you're about a good 80 feet or so away. You're also slightly on a, it's all hilly territory, right? The fortress or the keep is on a large hill, and then around here it just kind of slopes downwards away from that hill. So you just don't get a good look, but from the way that they're acting, they could very well be unaware of you. No one's acknowledged you. No one's looked at you or waved at you. They are generally busy. But I will say that as you're looking at this situation, it feels like looking at a memory. It feels like looking at something that is at least partially constructed from a day that could very well have happened to you at some point during your time training with the Locked Heart.
Yeah, but nothing specific, right?
Nothing
Just
specific,
a
no.
common environment.
Yeah.
Well, the next thing that I do is that I check if I have my sword with me.
You have everything with you.
I even go, I relieve the tension a little bit when I try to touch it and it's there.
Okay.
And, it's physical, it's with me. And I turn to him. And, or it, you got it. What and what do you want with me or with my friends?
Well, I decided early on that I was going to be frank with all of you, because I already regret the manner in which we were forced to meet for this first time. And I am sorry. Although I must warn you also that the threats levied against you and your friends are very real. They do not come directly from me, but I do not control directly these people. They are both servants and their own masters. And as we come to speak, I hope you realize that I do not overpower the will of others. As they are unfortunate associates, they have chosen these methods to ensure that we can meet. But I hope that we may walk away with an accord of sorts.
I understand, but do you understand your servants? Even with them being masters of their own, they're still doing things on your behalf and on your name for the most part. It's your name that they evoke when they do the things that they do.
Unfortunately, I am aware, but... Well, you of all people, you have experienced a cage, a prison, a place that you cannot escape no matter what you do. And you would try, well, at least many in your situation then would have tried anything, taken any tool, no matter how distasteful, to find a way to freedom. And that is the situation that I find myself in. And in fact, I hope that you yourself and the Ashen Hearts present the next step in using tools that are not distasteful, in using and cooperating in a manner that does not have such an inherent wickedness to it. Now do not mistake me. I make no overt judgments of any actions that the mortal might take. But even I have standards. Now you asked me why I brought you here. As I said, I seek an accord. I will not force you, and in fact, I will not harm you, even if you choose not to work with me. I simply cannot make any promises on behalf of those who exist in your world. But you must understand that while you have had talks like this before, there are powers in this world that are moving to shape it in the direction that they believe is most right and just for all. I believe you are acquainted with my adversary, the clockmaker. And they hold up a hand, and appearing in one hand, you can see it's a sort of illusion, but it's definitely real in this world, is an actual piece, a clock piece, the same as you guys have within the Ashen Hearts. They hold it up to demonstrate what they mean.
Yeah, I look at it, and I just turn to him and I say, my friends are more experienced with your adversary
Indeed.
than I am.
This is true, but nonetheless, what has drawn my attention about you, much more than possessing this, is the fact that all of you, save one, and you get the impression that they mean Myra, most likely, but all of you, save one, have encountered powers before, and the opportunity to go down a certain path, one that would have confined you to particular goals and ideals.
At this point, if you have me here, you must have figured out that power, it's not the majority of us are seeking power.
Well, that is exactly the point. And they kind of stride forward for a moment, looking out over the hills and then turning to you, folding their arms. That is your choice to make. But you know as well as I do that there are those who choose to support these, such as the clockmaker. And I do not begrudge them that choice. In fact, once you come to know me, you will know that the one thing I value above all others is everyone's ability to choose for themselves. But the problem is inherent in this. What the clockmaker wants is to take away your ability to choose, to reduce it to what it used to be, to go back to the way things were. I believe that since the gods fall, that you have entered a new paradigm in which mortal kind stands supremely independent. It has been a difficult road. Many of you have suffered, but you have survived. And endless choices lie before you, to shape the world as you see fit, to make of it what you will. But powers like theirs, Clockmaker, Aboleth, Empress, they seek to make something of the world in which you have no choice again. This I seek to prevent, and ask for your help.
The world makes of the world what it made itself. Precisely.
After a fashion.
That we, and emphasis on we, as a collective, all races, all creatures, we all took part on what happened to our world. And you, as someone who, as you said, you value the power of choice that people have, you must understand that in one way or the other, what happened, the gods fall, that was everybody's choice.
Of course.
That happened because we did what we did, and that things should follow its course. And with that, I agree with you. So you have my attention.
Very good. The problem is this. You stand on the precipice between the old and the new. In the old world, you were ruled by many powers, by pacts and gods and other creatures whose power was absolute. And no matter how much you made your civilization or what you made of it, they always reigned supreme. Now, you have a chance to throw off that yoke. But creatures like the Clockmaker and others like her, I could name a dozen that you have not heard of yet. They seek still to shape this world again into something that is again new, or perhaps old in the Clockmaker's case. But in doing so, they would chain you again. You had choice, but the range was much more limited. I seek only to prevent this, to indeed let things take their natural course. And in doing so, I will not play coy. I hope to be freed once again. I am chained myself, and I seek my freedom.
So, I'm still listening because what you're saying is a version of what's been said before. A concept of right and wrong and justice and what's supposed to be and what's not. An offering and consequences that are usually not in favor of any of us. But at the same time, at the moment, we are not a part of any sort of change. So what do you need me to do? What is the accord?
The accord is simple. I'd require agents that are both more flexible and less objectionable than the ones I have now. Act on my behalf and achieve the goals that I set to you in due time. And in return, I will not only grant you what little power I can provide, but I will aid you with any knowledge that is at my disposal in the pursuit of your own goals. I do not prescribe methods, but there will be difficult challenges ahead to ensure both the freedom of choice and my release from the prison that I find myself in. This is the deal that I place before you. If you accept it, I will grant you knowledge of many things. And for a moment, you blink and you watch as the whole world around you begins to fade like a puff of smoke being blown away. And you look up ahead and you see that you're standing in a small, dark room in a castle somewhere. You hear footsteps coming in from the right, and a door flings open. Several men and women in dark cowls that you don't recognize, not immediately, come in. They don't seem to notice you, but they gather around a table, and they begin to talk. And you see, placing on the table, that there are several guard rosters. You see a plan of a castle of some kind. And you hear them talk. Well, if the man dies, we must make it look like an accident, yes? And then, right as you hope to hear more, maybe get a glance of them, the only insight that you do gain is that these seem to be lords of some kind. Presumably, from what you can tell of the architecture, their accents, lords of Ostrazia. Then the vision fades, and you're standing back in the field. And the figure is back beside you. And they say, "This and more I may share with you. And in fact, to you, I will grant you a power of prophecy." It will not always be reliable, but it will guide you well if you apply prudence and wisdom to what you find.
I stand around, look down, look towards the horizon, the people still training. And I'm guessing that you're either having or you've had already the same conversation with the others. Or did they leave me going alone?
They
Because
look
I was
around.
the first one.
They look around. Having would be the correct tense, but not accurate. Time is a little different in these places. Unfortunately, I could not bring you together. It is not the nature of this magic. But yes, I am speaking with all of you today, and I pray and hope to count on your friendship once we are done.
The thing is, I know it's not the nature of this magic, and trust me, I don't understand magic. It's way easier to negotiate when there's only my interests being handled here. And I don't know them that well, but I know them well enough to say that Barnack's resisting. Jean-Jacques definitely resisting. He has his own interests and he won't let go of that. Tani, I don't know, you're a good talker. You might have been able to convince her. Myra, well, that's a mystery. So the thing is, by my count, you might not be in a winning situation here. And if I get out of this alive and we come to the agreement that as a group we won't help you, I'm not sure that I'll be able to help you. And I'm not sure that I'd be willing to help you if that's the case. You understand me?
I understand your concern, Ternock, and I appreciate your frankness. But you misunderstand. The choice, final, you may make here and now. I know it is not as you desire, but the choice is for you alone. And any of you may choose to support me or not, and those who do not, I will bear no grudge against. And I will in fact, even if I am unsuccessful, attempt to persuade those on the outside to let you go once we are done. Even if most of you choose, or all of you choose, not to engage with me. It is simply a matter of being both master and servant. I have power, but I am also captured. I aid them, and they aid me. But I do not control, because that would be to take away their ability to choose. And I make no judgment on my tools.
Do you understand? I don't know you, Bekor, but I don't think you understand the real reason why I don't seek any power. I don't know how power feels like.
I understand.
So it is a tempting offer just based on the fact that you've already told me that I wouldn't have any shackles, and I would be free to make my own choices amongst this all. But with that, I would need to help you. But if that actually comes to the matter of being against my people,
Ah,
my friends, my nation.
Ternock. I am sorry for interrupting you, but no, I will not set you against your friends. When you say that you have the freedom to choose to act as you wish, to pursue the goals that we hope to aim to finish together, I say that you have complete freedom. In fact, even at a later time, you may simply choose to break with me altogether. That is choice. How can there be choice if you do not have true freedom to make all choices?
Perhaps, and just perhaps, it's not just power, but perhaps true freedom. Perhaps none of us know true freedom. And, just facing that option. Aren't you scared of the unknown? Is anything unknown to you?
Many things are unknown to me. First and foremost, the means by which I might escape. But I will tell you this. I was once placed in this prison for my proclivity to whisper in the ears of mortals to make their own choices, instead of following commandments of gods or demons or devils or otherwise. For that rebellion against the divine order, they put me in a cage deep underground, and only now have I managed to reach out far enough to find a willing ear to listen. But I will ask you to consider this. If you choose not to help me, which is entirely your choice, consider the tools that I must continue to use exclusively in your absence. You can relieve me of these.
Who imprisoned you? Is it the clockmaker?
No. She is a part, a broken, solitary part of something that was once much larger. That larger was the representation of order and law on all the realms. It's they, among others, who took offense at my goings.
I stare him down more to the liking of staring this time.
Mm-hmm.
And I just extend my right hand.
They look at it for a moment. They nod, extend the hand as well, and they shake it, and they say, "Thank you. I will give you a little more time to mull over your decision, and then you will awaken." And as you're shaking hands, boop, they just disappear. Now, I wasn't able to give the others this particular bit, but as you're standing there in this field, looking over a hill or a hillside on which people are training, some old comrades are vaguely recognizable in the distance, you suddenly have a moment where you think, oh, we're waking up, and then suddenly all knowledge flees your mind, and you blink, and you wake up back in the warehouse, about to go down the hatch, and everything that you saw occurs. Alright?
Okay.